welcome to this week's Trucks. On tonight's show, Brian will be stepping into the ring to test the new Peugeot Boxer to see how it'll stand up to the other lightweight commercial heavyweights. Also, we'll be taking a look at your problems in Truckers' Gripes, but the really big news is Tim's managed to get his hands on some big riggers and he's testing for the first time tonight the Renault 420. Also tonight, we're going to take a look at what many companies consider to be a big issue once the vehicle is fully loaded, and that's security.
Tonight, we're here at Haywood Distribution Park in the heart of the Northwest. The park covers over 2 million square feet of land. It is close to 2 major motorways and is the host to many household names. But its biggest selling point isn't its location.
Security here on site is of absolute paramount importance to occupiers and users of the site. Distribution and retail sort of moving businesses are often targets for unwanted attention by casual criminals and organised gangs. Security has always been and remains very much the focal and strong point of the site.
Every year, 8 out of every 1,000 HGVs are stolen, and out of those 8, only 1 is recovered. The effect of losing a vehicle is immediate, with varying levels of business being lost. But what are the financial implications?
The first quarter of this year, there were recorded incidents of theft from trucks to the value of around 39 million. This doesn't actually account for companies who are self-insured, who are probably unlikely to record the incidents.
Perhaps one of the most surprising aspects to truck theft is that half of all trucks taken are from their owners' premises. That's why sites like Haywood are so popular. By offering facilities such as CCTV, 24-hour security guards, perimeter fencing and a sophisticated entry system, the park is able to keep both people and animals out.
I hope you're not referring to me as an animal, Tim, but I am surrounded by, dare I say, 2 animals. We've got Baron here, and we've got Conan, and we've got Colin, who is a human, if you hadn't realised that, and he's a security guard here. Now tell me a little bit about how many dogs you have on this site.
We have 5 dogs on the site at the moment.
Right, and are they patrolling the site the whole time?
There's a dog on site at all times, yeah.
Have you ever come across an intruder in here and had to sort something out with your dog?
I have a couple of times.
Yeah, and has it been nasty or has it been...
No, it's been resolved without the dog ever having to bite.
Bite, okay.
The dog is a good enough deterrent. In our training, he's not just trained to attack, he's trained to search buildings, fields.
Right.
So if an intruder takes something from a building and runs, the dog will follow him across the fields.
Now, unfortunately, not all companies can be located within a secure location. There are, however, some simple things you can do to try and protect your vehicle on your site. Firstly, make sure that the keys to the truck are kept in a secure location. Mark and keep records of all your parts and equipment. Next, make sure that any tools that could help criminals are locked away. And finally, try and store your vehicle behind a fenced compound.
Thank you, Colin, that was very interesting. And thank you to Conan, and thank you to Baron. Well, we've shown you how you can protect your truck and cargo in a distribution park. But what about in a lay-by or at a regular truck stop? Fear not. Later on in the programme, we'll be showing you more about truck security. But now it's time for Brian and the Peugeot Boxer.
If you'd have been watching us a few weeks ago, you'd have seen us down at the International Motor Show down at Birmingham, where we was looking at a lot of the new vehicles down there. One of those in particular was the new Peugeot Boxer that was on launch. Today, we've got it here to road test it. So let's see what it goes like, shall we? The vehicle itself has a very good appearance. Outside, the styling is very sleek, it looks aerodynamic. It's the sort of thing you certainly wouldn't mind being seen to driving. Interior is extremely comfortable. As we've seen, plenty of cubby holes, a nice big dashboard, plenty of places to put all your bits and pieces, and it does turn out to be a very roomy cab indeed. Now, as we can see, this particular vehicle is a semi-high top. Now, it has 9 cubic metres of load space in the back, and above us, a very nifty little luggage rack there. Behind me, a nice little safety cage. Now, in the cabin, we've got a lot of new luggage space here for all our documents, cup holders, and this very nifty fold-down clipboard. Now, this particular vehicle is a 2.8 HDI engine. Now, that's producing some 127 brake horsepower. That's a lot of performance for a small van like this. So I think the best thing we can do is take it for a road test and let's see how it performs. The suspension, which has all been modified, certainly does make a difference. The van feels nice, feels responsive, it doesn't sway about all over the place. It has fitted on the back axle an electronic sensor for cornering and braking, so it certainly does give you a bit more confidence. Fully loaded, going into a corner, disc brakes all round, sensor on the back, you know you can brake with confidence. They do say that the padding and also the fitting of the exhaust system and the suspension has been specially fitted on new rubber mounts. Really does make a difference as far as sound is concerned. Although there's not a full bulkhead in this particular vehicle, it doesn't drum and you can hear the radio, if you've got the radio on, quite easily. The ride itself is very smooth. They did say they'd uprated the suspension and done lots of modifications on this vehicle, and it certainly does feel like it. Has a very good price tag as well. At the moment there are a lot of options on these vehicles. There is quite a bit of discount available, and you're looking at this particular vehicle at 19 grand, which isn't a bad price for a vehicle of this size. We've got 3 diesel engines in this particular vehicle. They do a 2 litre, 2.2 litre and a 2.8 litre. Now the power range is very impressive, from 192 Newton meters at 1900 RPM right the way through to 300 Newton meters at 1800 RPM. We've also got a good towing capacity of 5,500 kilograms. We've road tested the vehicle and we've looked over it. With all the new suspension, brakes and steering parts on this, it certainly does live up to its press release. But with all the options to purchase this vehicle, will it actually knock the Ford Transit off the #1 spot? Only time will tell. And would you be a buyer of one of these?
Very impressive, Brian. I can see that the Transit's going to be in for a rough ride. Now, earlier on in the show, we were taking a look at security at a top distribution park, but now we've moved on.
Yes, we're at a Scania dealership in Middleton, Manchester.
The effect of crime on the haulage industry cannot be overlooked. The repercussions can vary from a rise in insurance premiums to the failure to meet customers' needs, resulting in a loss of revenue. And all of these can ultimately mean a company going out of business.
Okay, here with me now I've got Warren, who's from West Pennine, who's going to talk to us about vehicle security. So I thought vehicle security is a really big issue for yourself.
It is, it's becoming a very big issue. When we very first started off, we obviously had the immobiliser switches on the ignition side, we've had the handbrake locks fitted, but the way the vehicle crime's going at the moment, we're now obviously investing a lot heavily into more sophisticated security systems in the way we can obviously, look after our vehicles.
So do you find that certain customers are more interested in vehicle security and ask you about that? Is it a selling point for you, really?
To be honest with you, there is more insurance, there's more customers coming on now stating that their insurance companies require information of what security is fitted on the vehicle we are hiring to them.
Right.
So we are trying to really, set our sort of system out now, so hopefully in months to come, all our vehicles are actually fitted with the security system.
Unfortunately, the threat of crime isn't just restricted to the UK, it's spreading across all of Europe.
Incidents with vehicle crime are increasing very, very quickly over in Europe. I can give you an example. In Belgium, there was 8 incidents recorded year before last. Last year, there was an increase to 1 incident a day. That's 356 incidents.
With reported incidents of crime against trucks and drivers on the increase, the question is, what are the hauliers doing to protect both their loads and their drivers?
What they're trying to do is make their drivers ever vigilant, reminding them that, not to leave keys hanging around, not to talk about sensitive loads and, give sensitive information out at truck stops and things like that.
Okay, Oran, so tell us a bit more about the vehicle security and what's going on.
That's it. It's time for the break.
Yeah, and after the break, I'll be testing out the Renault 420 DCI.
And we'll also have truckers' gripes and more security items for your trucks. Welcome back to part 2 of trucks. Now, throughout the show we've been taking a look at the security measures you can take to secure your truck and load, and there's more of that still to come, but for now it's time for Tim's truck test, and don't forget it's a 44-tonner.
Now, it wasn't that long ago, I'm not being mean, that Renault and tractor units, mainstream tractor units, didn't belong in the same sentence, but that all changed dramatically with the arrival of this vehicle range. The premium market range was launched a few years ago, and I think it's fair to say that its arrival was a godsend to Renault. It suddenly put them on the shopping list of all the major fleet operators. The French are never frightened to be different in automotive design, and the premium long-distance privileged cab show the same goals for trucks. At first thought, you think this vehicle's not for the mainstream operator, and then you think again. It seems to me it's aimed at the single driver operations with overnight stops and needing average power and all the creature comforts of home. Now, if that doesn't describe a lot of UK operations, I don't know what does. It's also evolved over the years, and tonight we're road testing its latest incarnation, the 420 CDI. Well, here we are inside the Renault 420. A couple of things I notice immediately. One, which is sort of like in your face. First of all, there's no passenger seat. It's all dedicated, as with the privileged cab, to a sofa for the driver later on. I'll talk more about that as we get on. Secondly I'm using the OptiDriver gearbox, which is an automatic come manual gearbox as well. So it is quite nice. I've got it in automatic at the moment, but later on as we go through the test, I'll stick it into manual and you can have a look at the difference. Now, as I said in the introduction, Premium really put Renault on the map, and to be honest, it's about 2 or 3 years since I've driven one, and I can see why. I mean, the old ones, the old Berlier design stuff, they weren't really up to standard. Here, Premium is a nice, modern, clean-looking vehicle, and certainly you can pass that off. It stacks itself up against any of the competition in terms of looks. Drive-wise, not bad at all. It is quite positive on the steering. It doesn't tend to lunge about too much, which I quite like, because I quite like a firm ride when I'm in with the truck. Suspended seat you've got with the drivers, and that's very good indeed. I've got a nice driving position and quite easy. Noise-wise, the engine does tend to get a little bit noisy, particularly not so bad on tick-over, but when I'm giving it some revs, certainly up to the 1800 mark, then you can really feel it. So again, maybe a bit extra sound insulation won't go wrong with this vehicle at all. So I've got the vehicle now in manual, and all it's a case of doing, and I mean, to be honest, it's a manual, to me it's semi-automatic really. All I do is flick it forward, just like that, and that changes my gear upwards, no problem. And then if I want to change down, I'm just going to slow down now slightly and reduce the revs, and then just bring it down one. And then she'll just draw down that. As easy as that. I mean, you can't get driving any simpler, other than stick it in automatic, that's it. And to be honest, I prefer it this way. I like it to have it semi-automatic. I like to feel like I'm in control. It's not an automatic car. I do like to feel I know what's going on with the vehicle, and therefore I enjoy it a lot better when it's in this. The vehicle on today's test was a Premium 420 18 4x2. It had the Renault engine, which is powered at 412 brake horsepower at 1900 RPM, and that has a torque of 1870 Newton meters. It was matched to the ZF 12-speed gearbox, which had the OptiDriver package on that, which is a semi and manual gearbox. This long-distance Premium with the privileged cab on the OptiDriver gearbox just goes to show how this vehicle's evolved into a first-class driver's vehicle and should prove a big hit with many drivers.
So there you have it, the largest truck Tim's tested so far. And oh boy, has he been desperate to get his hands on some big ones this series, and he's succeeded tonight. But now it's time for you, with your mumbles and grumbles in Truckers' Gripes.
There are lots of issues that affect the haulage industry, many of which come and go over time. But, however, there is one that is ever present, the problem of high fuel costs. Despite numerous protests and discussions, what do you really think about the cost of petrol?
Absolutely scandalous. The cost of fuel is so high, then they've got the insurance on top and everything else. It's just totally outpricing the haulage companies.
It's crippling the business because we can't compete with lorries coming in from Europe running on cheaper diesel.
Well, there's a lot of countries now going to the wall because of it. They just can't afford to run. Literally, they can't afford to pay wages after they've paid for fuel.
Governors have got to make their money, so the only way they can do it is keep the wages down for drivers. That's why you're 170,000 short.
In other countries of the EU, petrol prices are between 33 and 44% cheaper. The reason for this difference is the amount of taxation placed upon fuel. With the UK government imposing the highest amount of any country, with costs being so high and with no indication of them being lowered, what about using alternative fuels such as LPG?
I don't know how reliable that would be for lorries. They just have to try and bring it down into line with the rest of Europe so we can compete.
Supermarkets have already started using gas and it's quite good, but it's got to go a long way before because the wagons are doing a lot of mileage on the road, so electric, you can't have a charge point in every service station, so it's going to be a good couple of years before it really comes into force.
I know one firm, not so far off here, they do try and run them off that LPG, and they say they are very underpowered, so to get equivalent to that you'd have very big engines.
Well, I don't know that part, but what I do know is if they take some of the tax off, then you'll be okay.
There is no disguising that because of the UK's high fuel costs, hauliers are suffering. For a government who says they want to encourage business, why are they imposing such high taxes upon companies that rely upon fuel to work? With increased competition from Europe, surely it would make sense to lessen the tax burden on fuel. This would encourage stability and hopefully growth of the UK haulage industry. So why aren't they doing it?
So, the age-old problem of overpriced fuel, a real thorn in the side of the haulage industry and a problem that doesn't seem to go away. But enough about that, forget all the moaning. Let's look at the latest technology in the aftermarket to keep you and your trucks secure. So, here to talk to us more about truck security is Karen. Karen, can you tell us a bit about Scorpion Vehicle Systems?
The Scorpion Group are leading designers and manufacturers of security solutions to all types of classes of vehicles, cars, LCVs and more in particular HGVs.
Tell us, what's the most popular system? Is there a start off?
Yeah, we start with immobilisers. Basic immobiliser will be a 3-circuit cut immobiliser. You can add to that then a coded fuel valve and an additional valve which is a handbrake valve. Fitting these two valves with one of our immobilisers will actually meet Thatcham criteria.
Tell us, what have we got here? I mean, you talked about valves and what have we actually got on the onto here?
Right, okay then. This is a typical immobiliser. This one is actually a transponder operated.
What does that mean?
Well, the onus is taken out the driver to actually disarm the system. All our immobilisers passively arm. The disarming of it is the difference, and this one is increasingly becoming more the more popular one because, as I said, the onus is taken out the driver to do anything.
So what happens is he takes it out of
Keys
the key?
away from the ignition, away from the steering column, and within 30 seconds it will arm.
Right, okay.
That will immobilise the vehicle.
And that's your sort of standard?
That's your standard circuit cut immobiliser.
Right, okay.
Then we can add valves on with fuel valves, which will start the injector pump of diesel, and also handbrake valves,
right,
which will prevent the handbrake being released.
Okay, so there's 2 or 3 different levels of systems, if you like. What's the most popular? What do people normally take?
For a basic system, they will use an immobiliser with a handbrake valve.
Right.
But if insurance companies are specifying that they must have a Thatcham system, then the criteria is to have a coded fuel valve and an uncoded handbrake valve, and that is Thatcham's criteria.
The technology that we have around today now, it means we can actually electronically tag the driver, and the vehicle recognises that who is actually in the vehicle. And if, for instance, the driver's pulled out of the cab, it will recognise that someone else is unauthorised to drive that vehicle, and we can then either lock the brakes on or cut the engine automatically.
Although there is a wealth of high-tech security available, there are some simple measures that you can take to protect both yourself and your truck. Avoid irregular routes and routines. A recognisable pattern makes you an easier target for thieves. Although it might sound simple, never leave your keys in the truck. Next, never give lifts to anyone. And finally, make sure you are aware of any security equipment that is fitted to your truck. This way you can both arm it and check that it's working.
Unfortunately, that's the end of the show for this week. But not to worry, because we're back next week at the same time when Tim will be getting his hands on another big rigger. What is it, Tim?
It's an ERF ECT, and Brian will be back in the yard just seeing how many people can get in the back of a minibus.
And we'll be dealing with your problems in Truckers' Gripes.
So until then,
goodbye.
Goodbye.